ready to start now?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Hi, I am Anna Bohach, and this is Kaylee Harms, and we are here to discuss Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is an evil corporation. It's, like James Bond style evil corporation, honestly. Planned Parenthood is set up as a nonprofit corporation when they also have another wing, which is sort of a nonprofit organization, but they can do whatever they want with their money.
Right.
They're not restricted by political activities. So they raise all their money and their donations through their nonprofit branch, and then they funnel that money into their other organization so they can fund campaigns and, make sure that they keep getting money from the government. They also do a lot of other horrible things. Kaylee and I are both pro-life women, and Planned Parenthood is the #1 abortion provider in the United States. And we're both pro-life, and we're not for abortion, but we're not really going to cover that today. We want to talk more about the other things that Planned Parenthood is doing, like corrupting our children and grooming them for sex, and poisoning young people with hormone replacement therapy. And also, pretty much destroying women's rights with their language and their definitions, and pretty much ignoring what it means to be a biological woman. So with that, I'm going to let Kaylee take over, and then we'll get into some of our exhibits for our discussion.
Yeah, and as Anna said, that she and I are both pretty conservative, pro-life women. It's no secret that we don't like Planned Parenthood for reasons of life. I think Planned Parenthood itself is quite the misnomer. It's very unlikely that you're going to go into Planned Parenthood pregnant and exit that way. But like Anna said, we are actually here to talk about the other elements that I think a lot more people, we can cast a much wider net because there's going to be a lot more agreement with what we're saying here. Planned Parenthood is hurting women. And I think it's important to talk about, no matter where you stand, I know a lot of people watching this video may at some point have either gone to Planned Parenthood for birth control or benefited in some way and used to support them. It's important to know what they're doing now and where they came from. Because in 1916, when they first came out, I'm going to read their expressed goal because I think it's important to focus on what they were intending to do. Their goal was to ensure that women should have the information and care they need to live strong, healthy lives and fulfill their dreams. And what we're seeing now is such incredible mission drift from that. It's really, really hard to claim that you are in existence to support and defend women when you can't even define what a woman is. And that's where we're at with Planned Parenthood. So go ahead and start with some of the visuals.
Yeah,
I think.
We'll go ahead and start a discussion on a new campaign that Planned Parenthood has started. It's actually an app called Rue. We'll just show you this real quick. This is what it looks like on the phone. And it's for...
like 24 hours a day available.
It's 24 hours a day available, to tweens and teenagers. And it's basically there so they can teenagers can ask questions of Planned Parenthood that they would be too embarrassed to ask their parents. And so we're going to cover the first question that was asked on Rue is, when are you no longer a virgin? And the answer is really disturbing. It says most people say they've lost their virginity after the first time they have sex. But sex means different things to different people, so it's up to you to decide what virginity means to you. So they're saying that you get to decide if you're a virgin or not. And this is a very problematic thing to do, because I have known, when I was in college, I knew girls who would have participate in sexual activity that wasn't, typical penis and vagina sex. But they would still open themselves up to STDs and claim they were a virgin, even though they were still having things like anal sex and oral sex, which, open them up to STDs and STIs and other problems. And then they could go on to another partner and expose them to those things because they tell their partner that, oh, yeah, I'm a virgin, which isn't technically true.
And I want to make a very important distinction here, especially as a survivor of sexual trauma. I think there's kind of this gray area and ambiguity here because, what if I've been raped? Does that mean I'm not a virgin anymore? And of course it doesn't.
Yeah,
Virginity is something that you give, not something that's taken from you.
Exactly.
But beyond that, what we're seeing here, which is a kind of more of a principal issue, is the intentional obscuring of concrete terms. And one thing that Anna and I did not mention yet is that Planned Parenthood is the #1 provider of sex education in the U.S. They reach over 1.5 million kids every year with their sexual education resources. So if the people who are teaching our kids these important things are telling kids that you can say you're a virgin if you're not, what they're doing is really setting people up for failure.
Oh, yeah.
Because if I say I'm a virgin when in fact I have an STD, and then I go and tell my potential sexual partner, oh, I'm a virgin, guess who else is going to have a problem? You know, it looks a lot like job security to me for Planned Parenthood. Come on in for all your STD needs. We're going to make sure you get them.
And, you know, Planned Parenthood New York had a campaign recently where they're...
So that was a disaster.
That was a disaster, basically using the F word, saying F me, F you, F everyone.
F on the train, F on the bus,
yeah,
F a stranger, F this. Basically have lots and lots of gratuitous sex and indiscriminate and just have lots of sex and then come to us because you're going to need us.
Yeah, and that's what they're teaching our kids, and it's no wonder we have, you know, STIs and STDs skyrocketing in like 14 to 24-year-olds. Right. So that's another reason why Planned Parenthood is an evil corporation. They are grooming our kids for sex. It's pretty obvious. The next question that was asked on the Rue app was, can transgender men get pregnant? And the answer is some transgender men can get pregnant, even if they're on hormone therapy.
That's because they're women.
They're women. If you have a uterus,
you're
a woman.
Right.
They have the same pregnancy options, including adoption, parenting, and of course abortion, because that's what Planned Parenthood is.
But when they say that, there's another one on here too. I want to get that one out because I think it's important. How does pregnancy happen was one of the questions, and they have this little thing here. But if you go to the actual PlannedParenthood.org website, they have 2 pages answering that question. How does pregnancy happen? And then the sub-question is, how do people get pregnant? Well, first of all, people don't get pregnant, women do. But you have 2 whole pages without a single reference to male or female, or any kind of education about how the sperm they're talking about reaches the egg. Who has the sperm? Yeah. Who has the egg? How does one get to the other? You know, it's like if the people who are responsible for educating our children about where babies come from can't even bother to use the terms male and female in their explanations, we're up a proverbial creek without a paddle. This is bad news.
They are the #1 provider for sex education in the country, and they cannot get biological sex correct.
It's sex ed. It's not gender ID ed. It's sex ed because the material reality of biological sex matters.
This is a piece from their sex education curriculum, and it's talking about what is biological sex. It says, some people call the sex we're assigned at birth biological sex, but this term doesn't fully capture the complex biological, anatomical, and chromosomal variations that can occur. Having only 2 options, biological male or biological female, might not describe what's going on inside a person's body. Instead of saying biological sex, some people use the phrase assigned male at birth or assigned female at birth. This acknowledges that someone, often a doctor, is making a decision for someone else. The assignment of biological sex may or may not align with what's going on in a person's body, how they feel, or how they identify.
What about like home births? What if nobody assigns your sex? Are you just kind of SOL? Assigned sex at birth. Again, people writing curriculum. You know, you wonder why there's so much confusion around sex and sexuality. It's because we can't even acknowledge the sexual dimorphic nature of humans. Even like intersex people, which is a very rare thing, what they have is a mutation of male or female. They don't have this third sex.
Yes.
You know, so you can't teach sex ed if you can't get that right.
And usually they still either have an X or a Y. Usually it's an XXY or some variation of that. And if there's a Y, it's a male. So it doesn't matter what your external genitalia looks like. You know, it's biological as far as, you know, who you are. And, you know, this this theory being pushed by the transgender activists is, I'm a man because I feel like a man, or I'm a woman because I feel like a woman. It's like, how does a man know what a woman feels like?
Well, if you ask Bruce Jenner what the most difficult part of being a woman is, he will tell you it's choosing what to wear. I'm sure that's your experience.
I know. I mean,
it's very offensive.
It is offensive, and it's like women aren't, what we wear or how we dress or what we like to do. Women is who we are. It's our biological experience. When I was a girl, I liked to climb trees and play in the dirt and make mud pies and catch frogs. Did that make me a boy? I guess maybe it did.
Well, and what they're doing is they've zeroed in on their newest cash cow, right? And like all of their money is always going to come from sterilizing people and destroying life, right? But now they've found all this teenage angst and confusion. I know Planned Parenthood of the Pacific Northwest, or whatever the official term is, in their first year of giving out transgender hormones, which is basically just sterilizing these young kids who hate their bodies, who don't feel comfortable in their bodies, like most teenage girls don't.
Yeah.
They had over or close to 700 clients in just one little area for the first year.
Yeah. It's scary. I mean, who wasn't uncomfortable with their body when they were a teenager? I was 6 foot tall.
We were both 6 feet tall at 13.
Yeah,
so.
It's like, I hated my body. I guess, if I was growing up today, I could have transitioned. And, not knowing, what that would mean, because there have been no studies on all of these hormones that they're giving out to people. There's been no studies by the FDA to see if they're even safe. And that brings us to this next question en route, which is, do I need parental consent to start transgender hormone therapy? And it said, getting transgender hormone therapy without parental consent depends on the laws of the state you live in and your doctor. Talk with your doctor or nurse, like the staff at your nearest Planned Parenthood, to find out what your options are.
And if you go to the actual website and see the full-length explanation of what you can expect in a gender affirmation appointment, you can leave with a reasonable expectation that after a 45-minute appointment, you'll be leaving with a prescription for hormones. Exactly. And that just makes me so sad, because I think, this is going to be a very unpopular opinion here, but I've been doing this for 5 years. When you have, there's trauma at the root of a lot of this trans mania, right? Both for male and female. But with the men who think that they're women, a lot of times what you're working with is a sexual fetish called autogynephilia. It's not the same. It's completely different pathology for these girls who are usually young, and they're trying to kill the thing that was used to wound them. They are trying to cut off their sexuality so it will never be used against them again to hurt them. Exactly. And Planned Parenthood, instead of seeing that and nursing them back to health and saying, no, embrace your healthy body parts. Like, this is your beautiful, healthy body. They're helping them butcher it. And they're using slogans like, at Planned Parenthood, we are pro-you, gender-affirming hormone care. These drugs are dangerous. They've not been approved by the FDA. They've never been studied for long-term use or for this purpose. Lupron itself, just one drug that they're using a lot, had over 40,000 FDA complaints for its appropriate use last year.
Yeah.
Like, it's got problems with your bone density, you get brittle bones at a very young age. But they're just basically sending these girls off to, harm themselves. This is not embracing their youth. This is helping them in their self-hatred and their self-rejection. And they're getting profit for it. And it's really, like Anna said, it's evil. It's wrong, and it needs to stop. It's not pro-woman. It's actually killing, because they're going to be sterile now. It's killing the one superpower females have in this entire world that men don't, which is the ability to procreate.
And they refer them to doctors who will butcher them,
right.
Who will remove healthy breast tissue and remove their reproductive organs. And this is something you can never get back. There's so many stories of people who are detransitioning and regretting what they decided to do when, they were at an emotionally vulnerable point in their life. And instead of offering them the help they need, they butchered them, they poisoned them, they fed their delusion instead of actually offering the help that they needed.
I had to sign a 4-page parental consent a couple months ago to get my 9-year-old daughter's ears pierced. Yeah. But at 9, without her permission, because, that consent is based on the notion that she's not old enough to make a permanent decision like this, and we have to really make it thoughtfully and know that it's something that long term is best for her. But at age 9 and younger, they're prescribing these hormones for kids.
And at age
that
13 here in this country, they're removing healthy breasts off of
double mastectomies.
Yes.
You know, before they're old enough to drive a car or even deal with like
They can't
growing
even
into
go
their
to Target
bodies.
and buy a bottle of NyQuil.
Right.
They have to be, I think they have to be 18 to be able to buy a bottle of NyQuil. But they can go down to Planned Parenthood and they can get hormone replacement therapy and poison their bodies.
Ka-ching. Planned Parenthood doesn't care about women; it cares about money.
It does.
This is my favorite.
This last one is just, this was a part of a getting your prostate checked for women's International Women's Month.
Nothing says
yeah.
Healthy Women's Week like a prostate exam.
Yeah, like a prostate exam.
Come on, you
And
nimrods.
this is from Planned Parenthood saying, trans women deserve health care too. Women's health means trans women's health too. Women's Health Week. So to celebrate Women's Health Week, they're going to give out prostate exams.
To celebrate Women's Health Week, we're going to center
prostates.
men in our own movement.
Yes, we're going to give our resources to men instead of actually helping women.
We're not big fans of Planned Parenthood. We don't think you should be either.
Yeah, but Planned Parenthood needs to go down, and we ask you all to join us in our campaign.
Regardless of whether or not you agree with us on other stuff, this stuff is important.
This isn't even abortion. This is just as bad. What is happening? So I mean, we all need to unite as women and say no more.
You know, at some point, this is going to take its rightful place in the history books next to lobotomies and bloodletting. But you know, people knew those things were wrong too, well before they were.
This is
done
all
in practice.
atrocities being committed in the name of medical progress.
For women.
For women.
So, maybe Planned Parenthood, if you want to say that you defend us, figure out how to define us correctly.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.
That was better.
Yeah. Okay.
You have to flip out the